Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for attending. We've got the cabinet here, we've got the board here, we've got Van Pelt here, and we're very pleased to have some of the community here, and I guess on Zoom as well. So we will start this meeting, as we do all meetings, with the Pledge of Allegiance. And there's an American flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I need to do an approval of the agenda. Okay, I am seeking a motion for to approve the agenda from our board members.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, Kelly Mokashi, seconded by Sachibiani. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, as well. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to give an update, a report discussion on the updates on the Measure I-1 bond program and on our facilities master plan, which is underway right now. We'll get the update. It's a PowerPoint presentation. Ahmad will be leading us in that one. And then we'll have a chance for the public to comment or question based on what they heard, and hopefully get out of here by 7:30. Okay. Question? Yes.
Can we have the superintendent make an announcement?
Yep.
About the news today?
Can we what?
Have the superintendent make an announcement?
So I have a special announcement.
I don't like those.
You don't like special announcements? This one's actually pretty
Okay,
good.
okay. All
So
right.
just before we came over here, we were listening to the results from the national finals of the We the People competition, and Amador Valley took the national championship title. So well done. Anyway, that was my announcement. You can relax now, Mark. And I'm going to turn it over to Ahmad Salami, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
Great, thank you, Superintendent Hagelin. I actually thought the announcement he was going to make is we will have internet tomorrow. So if you're at home and thinking there's going to be another day of no internet and kind of other activity at the school, we will have internet, and that was restored this afternoon. We apologize for that inconvenience. I'm going to share my presentation, and then we can go ahead and start. Okay, I'm actually really excited to talk about the progress that we've made on Measure I-1 and the projects that we're looking forward to. I think it's a really exciting time to be at the district, to see some of the hard work that the community actually put in to plan the Measure I-1. It takes a lot to pass these bond programs, and now we see the fruits of that labor from the board members, the community, and staff that have put all that time to really see that program through. However, we know that there are many more needs, and that's why we're embarked on the facility master plan work. So the numbers you see up here are really through the summer of 2021. And so we've actually done more work since then, and more work is planned, again, in the areas of opening buildings, technology, our HVACs and roofing, and security and safety. And so we're going to do a deep dive in those in the next slides to come. We started the year with a lot of groundbreakings. And we ended the last few months with a lot of ribbon cutting. So a lot of fun activities and celebrations in this phase of the Measure I-1 bond program. I'm only going to share this one spreadsheet. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of spreadsheets, but this one is really important because it indicates how much work we have actually accomplished in terms of the dollars we have spent. And so we have now spent over $110 million, and we have encumbered to spend another $37 million. And so we're really moving at a brisk pace on our bond program. And here you can see the critical categories that this program was divided into. It was, again, about safety and security, about bringing the district into the 21st century in terms of our phone systems, our internet, our classroom technology, and the devices that are in our students. It was also bringing new facilities where we lacked in science, and we had a lot of portables on our campuses. And so those were identified, and new building capacity around a potential new school and other areas that were identified. And so through a bond program, it is very normal to make changes in the implementation and to refine it. And we've been doing that throughout the process, ensuring that the projects are on the bond list, but looking at the needs and making those adjustments. And so in the coming week, we'll also bring up the latest implementation update. So in terms of the bonds, we've sold $160 million, approximately $161 million of bonds. We have $109 million remaining. And we plan to bring the next sale of the bonds forward to the board for about $74.45 million in the next round, which we expect to be in June. And so that will allow us to continue the high pace of construction and activities. This summer, we have planned $25 million of work, which is the most amount of dollars we're going to spend in the shortest amount of time. And that's mainly attributed to a massive roofing and HVAC project that we have planned for this summer. In terms of our abilities to maximize the dollars, this is one area that I think we have really benefited with the team that we put together. And today we're joined with Eric Van Pelt, and he's done an extraordinary job, and John Schwastik. And so we have the A team in terms of managing the project. And through the A team, what you get is you get good decision making in the type of projects to bid, in the type of packages and the value engineering work we've done in using and taking advantage of COVID, and not saying that, okay, it's COVID, we're shutting down, but saying we're going to press the accelerator pedal. And so through that, we've seen easily $7 million of savings, and those saving dollars are going to increase the amount of projects that we can accomplish. If you remember back in 2012, the district had over $800 million of needs, and this bond is about $270 million. And so the more we can get from this program, that means the more projects are being completed. So we can kind of look at some of the projects in detail. Leidixon Elementary School, so far 10 classrooms have been built. The kids are using them. Natural turf field opened up about a month ago. New playground, underground utility work that's been upgraded. And for the start of the new school year, we'll have a new kindergarten wing and a new library open. That will be done in the next month or so, but they're going to move into it over the summer. In addition, right behind that, on the heels of that, will be an administration building, and then building C, which is, again, one of those value saving kind of measures where we said we can save this building and save the taxpayers' dollars, and it'll be as good as new, and some other improvements. So the next slide is going to show us a pretty cool aerial shot of the play field and the two new buildings that have opened up, and then the hard court space and the ball walls. And the kids just love the new asphalt with the painted lines. And you can see a little bit of the new drop-off pickup, the new play structure over there. And so the great thing is that opened up at the beginning of the school year, and the kids have been using it since September. The next shot it shows the construction work, and I think this is about maybe a few weeks old, so things have even progressed further than that. But you can see to the left the kindergarten building, to the right the library building, and those will all be done, including the site work for the opening of the new school year. And so that's Eric, remind me, 4 kindergarten, 1 TK classroom, including the library. Okay, in February, we opened the new science building here at Amador. And the great thing about that is the kids who were in portables, and I saw some of those portables, I showed our SDC classrooms, they were not in good condition. And to see those kids in this brand new state-of-the-art facility is a real joy. And so that was a major accomplishment that we were able to achieve in February. We did the ribbon cutting, and that was a very fun ceremony, and a little bit of an aerial view of that building over here. So again, a total of 12 classrooms, correct? So it's a large building and provides a lot of classroom space for this school. This is probably what we call one of the best classrooms in that building. Is the corner classroom, and it overlooks that baseball and softball field. So get a glimpse of those interior classrooms there. Not to be outdone, Foothill High School also opened a new science classroom. It's a little bit smaller classroom, but it has a little bit of different CTE pathway classrooms in there. And in addition to the classrooms that we built, they're also going to get another classroom through a state grant, a $3 million state grant that will allow them to expand their CTE pathways. So that was and again, a fun ceremony. And Sachi, you did the ribbon cutting at that one. A nice big smile there. And I really love this photo because it really captures several major projects. To the lower left, you can see obviously the 2 new buildings. In between those 2 new buildings and the older building will be the location of that $3 million CTE building that will start construction, Eric, in fall. Is that the plan? Fall. So more coming. But what you can also see to the right is an improved drop-off pickup. And that was a project that we did a joint use with the city. And the city has contributed about $800,000 towards that project. And then to the left, you'll see the new parking lot and drop-off, and that corrected a problem that site had with a reverse drop-off pickup. And then you can see the nice clean flow out. So again, a lot has been done on that site. And you can also see the new paint colors, which was a part of our maintenance and repair projects. We'll fly over here for everyone. And that's the courtyard area. We'll have the state-funded CTE classroom. The interior of the classrooms, I think we visited the classrooms and just the level of engagement of the students and the space there was really well appreciated, and it's just really a joy to see those spaces being used. Not to be outdone, Hart School also is receiving a new science building. We've already completed the drop-off and the parking lot, and On Friday, DSA approved the plans, and so that building will start to go vertical in later this spring. This is not an actual picture, it's actually a rendering, but once it's done, it'll look very similar to this. And hopefully we'll have kids running around in that courtyard. That courtyard will also have a shade structure, and that's not pictured in this rendering. This is an actual photo. And what I like about this is that not only do you can see the new drop-off pickup, the parking lot, which actually increased the capacity in the Hacienda Business Park and reduce traffic impacts in Hacienda. You can also see that we utilize this overflow parking for our testing, COVID testing during the peaks, and it's still there and being utilized. The other thing you'll see is these 4 portables that are packed into the school back here. And so with the construction of the new science building, we'll be able to remove those portables and provide the school more playground asphalt area near their locker rooms. Keep talking. Okay. In terms of the HVAC and roofing, a lot of times these projects are very important because of the nature of keeping the building envelope safe and making sure we don't have any leaking roofs and further damage occurring. And so with this bond, because the district had it had been a while since the last bond had passed, there was a lot of deferred upgrades and maintenance type of projects, especially in the area of roofing and HVAC. And these are usually typically done over 30 years of lifespan that roofs and mechanical equipments have. And so far, we've done and will have done by the end of the summer 22 over 400,000 square foot, and an additional 200,000 square foot of roofing projects will remain in the future years. In addition, we're also replacing HVAC units, and that's much appreciated in our climate where it gets pretty warm in the August, September, October months, as well as May and June. You can see here, Alisal, the new roofs and then also the new HVAC equipment. In this next picture, this is a beautiful harvest park on a nice sunny day, and grasses are being kept nice and green. And you can see all of the roofs have been replaced in the main structure, single ply membrane roof, which is our standard, and then the new mechanical equipment. So this is to our eyes, it's a beautiful thing. Safety and security projects. Again, we keep continuing to ensure our schools have the proper fencing and security around them. And those projects have almost all been completed. We have a few more here at Amador and at Foothill, but we're almost at the conclusion of the fencing. Security cameras have been installed at the high schools and are operational, and they're ongoing in the middle schools and will be done in the next month or two, correct? End of this month. And then so next year we'll concentrate on the elementary schools and have them completed by the end of the fiscal year. Those projects do occur during the school year and won't impact school operations. Another area that we've started to make upgrades is and replacing all the burglar alarms in the campuses and to bring that to current technology standards. We have a pilot program at Hart Middle School. Once we ensure that's successful, then we'll roll it out to the other schools. Technology in 21st century classrooms. Again, every classroom in the district has been touched in terms of new wiring, new phone, clock, bell, speaker systems, Wi-Fi and data cabling. And so those upgrades have allowed us to have some of the most up-to-date standard technology in our classrooms and to be able to fully utilize the technology that we see. And so that's been a major accomplishment, a very complex project because it did involve us to work in every classroom and to be able to work in actually, spaces that are being used on a regular basis. And so that's a major accomplishment that we've met during the bond program. And so you can see the classroom technology here. I think this is at Amador, and this is one of our not the ViewSonics. This is one of the Panasonics with the interactive whiteboard. And then this is at Leidixon with the overhead projector. And so again, continuing the theme of making sure our schools are safe, the fire alarm upgrades is a major project for us that will be undertaken, and will bring up the fire alarm systems to the current code with voice activation systems that allow very clear instructions as to how students are supposed to clear the space and be safe. And so this summer, we're going to have 6 schools, followed next summer by another set of schools. And then finally, the last summer will be our 2 high schools. So again, this is a major project list for us, is to have those fire alarm systems upgraded for the safety of students and staff. Another key component of the Measure I1 program has been accountability and oversight. And we're fortunate here tonight to be to have in our audience 2 of our CBOC members, and we also have our CBOC chair, Arnie Olson. And I don't know, Arnie, if you want to say a few words about the work of the CBOC and what we do and how that has been going the last several years.
Well, we're formed by state law that requires anytime a school district issues bonds that are approved by the public, there needs to be oversight with respect to how the money is spent. And the bond language dictates how that money should be spent. And that comes from the Board of Trustees setting up those priorities before the bond issue is actually put out to the public to be approved. So what we do through the year and then on an annual basis, the committee follows similar reports to what you've been providing tonight. And we bring in annually an outside CPA firm to audit how the district has in fact spent the money, and to audit not just financially, but in terms of performance. Has the district actually followed the bond language with respect to how the money was spent? And so we have, let's see, for 3 years now, I think since I've been involved with it, we've had that annual audit, and they've been clean audits all the way through. And my other impression of this project, you pointed out on one slide, $7 million in savings. And my view is that came about by doing a good job of going out for bids, knowing when to go for bids, and combining some projects so that you got one contractor coming in to do all of that work. And by virtue of that, we're able to save money. So that's basically what we've been doing as the community bond oversight committee.
Great, thank you, Arnie. I think that's a really good recap of it. And I've attended since I've been with the district all those meetings, and I see the interactions, I see the questions, and I think it provides a great important asset in terms of the accountability and the oversight. And you guys are doing an outstanding job. As Mr. Olson indicated, in addition to the CBOC committee, we're also required to perform the independent financial and performance audits. And those are available on our website, and they have been clean. And it's really a testament to the team's diligence and their controls and the work that they do to make sure that best practices are in place and the law is being followed. So again, that transparency, we have a website, we have it both for the facility website and also the CBOC as well. And on an annual basis, we update the board in terms of the implementation plan, and we engage in a regular basis with the board, obviously approving all the contracts and the work that we do. And so again, another important aspect of our program. To highlight, the district is also ensuring that we maintain the facilities that we have. And to do that, the district is required to set aside 3% of its annual budget for what is called routine maintenance or routine restricted maintenance. And those dollars pay for all the day-to-day maintenance of our facilities. You know, if HVAC isn't working, we have to send a technician out. If we have a sewer that backs up, all the components that you see in our 15 campuses in the district office have to be maintained by these dollars. The dollars don't go that far once you do the day-to-day regular maintenance year over year, but we do try to set aside some dollars every year to do some of those maybe short-term or medium-term maintenances that are critical to make sure the facilities actually last a lot longer. So things like painting, asphalt repair, flooring, carpeting, those are the things that, again, through that budget on an annual basis, we set aside and to be able to ensure that the facilities that we have built are maintained. We've taken on some additional projects like the improvement of the fields. We talked about the painting of the schools. We've done extensive landscaping, tree tripping, ensuring that tripping hazards are being removed. Playground equipment that's unsafe is replaced, and looking at upgrading our irrigation system and some other control systems to modern technology. So you can see the results of that, for example, at Foothill and the change to the campus and the field that it made, going from our jack-in-the-box red to the colors that we see now, and to the Amador field, which our softball and baseball fields can use a more safe field in. The district also does look outside sources of funding for its facilities. And so where we can grab grants, we do. And this grant was actually brought in by our teaching and learning staff. They were able to get a grant from the Alameda County Office of Ed. And through other funding sources, we were able to upgrade the inclusive playground at Harvest Park. Aerial shot of that project, and it's just a really, really neat place to be. We also try to work with our community partners and to look for donations to make improvements, so that Pleasanton approached the district after the Measure M bond was not successful and said, well, what can we do? And through those efforts, we were able to gather donations and to install the shade structures here at Amador. The same group is now working and partnering with us to do some projects at Foothill around their ADA access and some basketball playground space that they lack, and some other components that are really important. So hopefully those dollars will come and those projects will come to a fruition this summer. So even with all the work that we've done and all the successes we've had, we know that the needs exceed what is available. And so in the 2012 master plan, we identified over $800 million of need. We know since then construction costs and needs have increased. And so in the fall, we started a new facility master plan to update and to look at our needs and then to see what our next steps are going to be. And so that's the next part of the conversation that we're going to embark on. So the facility master plan is an extensive and complicated process that takes data from multiple different sources. So we look at what's our educational goal and vision. And that's really the critical driver of where we want to be and what ensuring that our facilities are in alignment with our educational goals. Then we want to look at our demographics. What are our projections? What are our needs? Where's our growth? Where's the enrollment decreasing? And so we look at that data. Then we look at the physical condition. And so we had a team go through and look at all of the buildings and look at all the systems and all the documents. We look at the financial piece, where's funding available? And then by meeting with our various key stakeholders, we look at it and we develop those project lists. We come up with estimated costs. Then with the board, we prioritize those projects, and depending on where the funding is going to come, that's going to determine what we can actually move forward with. And so through a very aggressive schedule, we started this work in early October, and we had LPA come on board, and we set a whole path of research, of gathering the data, start to have meetings with the key stakeholders. We've had 3 major facility committee meetings. In between that, we've been gathering data. We've been talking to the school sites, to the departments, to the different staff and stakeholders to come up and holistically look at school sites and see what needs to be improved at each site to bring those schools up to standards that we'd like to see them at. And then that's going to come. We have a really important meeting set for this coming Wednesday. Well, that work is going to be reviewed by the committee. Then there'll be recommendations coming out and kind of to the board to look at a meeting in May on 19th. That's a special board meeting. And from that list and other data points, the board can then decide how they want to proceed from there. And so it's a complex and long process, but it's a very thorough process. Through some of the engagements, we've asked our principals to create some priorities, and we'll start to see some themes in terms of, when we were looking at some of these, outside and outdoor learning was really important, especially the elementary level. So we'll see some issues around that. We know that our food service program has expanded, and so there's needs around food service. Playground space is critical. Again, depending on if you're high school, middle school, different things are of importance. So we've gathered that information from our principals. From our other key stakeholders, we can see that maintaining our classrooms and making sure that they're up to standards is critical. We also see the theme of gyms and locker rooms as being important. And here at Amador, we're dealing with facilities that are decades and decades old and systems that have not been maintained. And so we're going to have to address those as we look into this program. Again, overall look of the campus. And so these are themes that have emerged from our parent community. We've also asked our students to weigh in, and you can see again the theme of locker rooms and gyms as being considered, food service and dining, and restrooms here are some of the concerns that our students have had. It's also important to note that, the data is coming from, we tried the best to do outreach, but so we have to take that data and see where it's also coming from. So all of this information plays into that decision-making role. In terms of our teachers and staff, again, they spend most of their time in the buildings and classrooms. Technology is critical. We see that classroom furniture, and we see that restrooms are also critical from our staff's perspective. So in terms of some of the themes that we've seen, continuing the modernization work and staff restrooms, food, dining, locker rooms, gyms, we saw that through all of the grades. And when we look a little bit deeper in the middle schools and high schools, we also see the performing arts, our theater buildings also become critical, as well as ensuring accessibility for all our students. And so that work will continue, and we'll come back with kind of some high-level recommendations and the backup for the board in the meeting on the 19th of May. We also, while we have had the facility committee really concentrate at the schools, at the district level, we have been evaluating the future of the district and village high school property. And to remind everyone, the property in its entirety includes Upper Bernal Field, which we have leased to the city. And then it includes the village high school, and then all of the other functions that are on that property, which is mainly the district office, the superintendents, all of the business services, including maintenance, operations, and transportation, all of the services of student support, teaching and learning. We have the Tri-Valley SELPA, adult education, CTE, TB30s there, PPIE, in addition to STEAM and Horizon. So we've been looking at this holistically, knowing that this property and this school was built in the 1950s, knowing that this property hasn't seen any significant modernization upgrades since the late 80s, knowing that there is extensive ADA challenges and difficulties, knowing that the district office is separated into 7 different buildings in outdated office infrastructure, and that doesn't support good collaboration and teamwork. So knowing all that, we've been kind of thinking, oh, what can we do with such a unique property in such a unique setting in the town close to the downtown? So back in fall, if you remember, we actually asked the city to consider 3 properties in their housing element plan. And the housing element plan is a document that the city needs to prepare every 7 years that identifies various locations in the city that are potential for housing, because the city has an obligation to provide a certain number of new housing during these 7-year cycles, or at least to make the zoning available for developers and owners to be able to do that. So they go out and kind of ask the community, or do you want your property to be considered for housing? And so with the district, we decided 3 properties would make sense because we want to potentially do something with those properties differently. First, we have an unused school site off of Vineyard Road, and so we asked that property to be evaluated. Second, we have a large field at Donlin, which we said a portion of that field, about 5 acres, 5.5 acres should be considered. And finally, for our conversation here, we asked that the district property, less the Upper Bernal Field, which is currently leased to the city, to be considered in that process. And so by doing so, we are leveraging the value of these properties to increase as they are considered for zoning for housing. And that will then allow the district to further consider where and what areas can these functions better be served. And so are they served well in a 1950s middle school campus, or are they better served in a more modern day facility, modern day office, modern day school, modern day type of support facilities for STEAM and Horizon? So that's the question we have posed, and that's the one that we are looking at as part of this overall facility master plan work. So moving on, and for those who are interested in this discussion, we are going to delve a lot deeper into it on Thursday at the regular board meeting. But I did want to make sure that as part of our discussions is this overall thinking at the district property as well. And so in terms of village and looking at the educational programs that we house at the district office campus, we've also asked our question, what could Village High School or that idea of an educational options center be if we thought a little bit broader? If we broadened that thought and said, what if we brought these programs together under one campus and extended those programs beyond just the Village High School, included the Pleasanton Virtual Academy, which is focused on project-based learning, and looked at an environmentally focused school, that a career technical pathway that looks at the environmental sciences. So now we're kind of thinking, what can we do beyond that? And this concept of the educational option center is one that we're discussing and want to discuss with the board and with the community in the months to come. And so kind of looking at, again, that idea of what can we be, when we grow up, is this idea of this educational concept center. And we know that other school districts, and one across the bay in Menlo Park at Sequoia Union High School District, built a small high school, 400 students, STEAM focused, on a 2-acre lot. And so when we have challenges around property and space, their problems are much more than ours, because they're in the neighborhood of Facebook and Oracle and others who are taking up all of the land available in the peninsula. And so over there, they came up with this really neat concept of a 2-acre site school for 400 students. I believe it's around 60,000 or 70,000 square foot facility, if I'm not wrong. I believe the total project cost of this, program cost of this, was around 55 million, and it was opened up about 2 to 3 years ago. Again, don't quote me on those specifics, but you can find them on the website for LPA. But this kind of gives you a flair of what potentially we could do here at Pleasanton as well. And finally, before we kind of conclude and open it up for question and answer, all of the facility master plan work to date is on a dedicated website. You can either grab the URL from here or scan that with your phone, and then you can go and browse that. What you will see is all of the reports, all of the site plan, not through the work that they've done that will show the facility committee tomorrow, right, Eric? That's going to be, has the website? Okay, after the meeting that will be updated. But it at least shows you the work, some of the background information there. And for the community, there is a contact information, and members of the community can also provide input. Finally, a kind of a few other tidbits of data and information. Again, Pleasanton is a unique community with an extremely strong property assessed valuation. And during the last decade, we've seen a 60% growth in that property assessed valuation. I got to do a little disclaimer in here and indicate that that does not translate to additional new dollars for our ongoing annual budget. School districts like ours are funded through what is called the local control funding formula. The local control funding formula sets the amount of funding per ADA, or average daily attendance, at the state level. What happens at the local level is you first fill the level of funding with local dollars, and then the state backfills what we're short. And at our district, the state contributes around 45% of that LCF of funding. So as our assessed property grows, the state's contribution decreases, but not our increased funding for us. So just a little bit of I wanted to throw that out as I wear my CBO hat as well in this district. However, the strong assessed property growth does allow the district to improve its facilities because local bonds that are meant for physical improvement of campuses are based on the assessed valuation of the district. In terms of the per $100,000 of assessed taxes in the county of Alameda, currently the Pleasanton Unified School District assesses $43.50 for every $100,000 of assessed value. Your home may be worth $1.5 million, but your assessed value and your property tax are based on $400,000. So you'll be paying 4 times $43.50 or less than $200. So this is just kind of a benchmark as we look forward through the facility master plan and consider a future bond, that we here in Pleasanton currently have the lowest assessed valuation in terms of the dollars coming to the Pleasanton Unified School District. And so with that, I kind of wrapping it up, again, we indicated we have a critical meeting tomorrow, bringing that information to the board on the 19th. We hope to have the facility master plan adopted in June, and then for consideration of the board for a November 22 bond measure. If that is to go to fruition, that would need to be in place by July, as the deadline for the county, I believe, is early August. So with that, I turn it over to you, President Miller, for any questions from the board members of the audience.
Thanks, Ally. Yeah, as I stand here today, Joan and I were, I think, the only board members who were actually in the process of creating the I-1 bond. We were the ones who worked together with a lot of the other board members to set the priorities and so forth. And I just feel so proud, not for ourselves, but for what this district has accomplished over the last 6 years, I guess, especially the last 3 years. And, really thank you, Ahmad, John, Eric, you guys have been amazing for us. Our CBOC, Arnie and you guys' team, I mean, it's a collective effort. But I think I feel really proud that we've done so much with the money. We've stretched the money further than we thought we were going to. I think we were originally only thinking we were going to get a few HVAC and roofing projects done, but we've been able to do a lot more than that. So that's fantastic. And then just to do it with such integrity and fidelity as per the audits and all that kind of stuff, to me is just, I just feel very proud about that. So with that, we're going to do this first. If board members have any questions or comments, we can take some time to do that. Trying to also remind people that we also have another meeting on Thursday where we'll talk about the same things. So maybe better time for some of that there. Then public comments. So we're going to start in here in the room. We need to fill out a yellow card for each of you who make a comment. So if you can do that, that's great, or we can help you do that. But basically, we have to keep track of everybody who has a comment or anything. We can't comment on your comments as part of a regular board meeting. But this is a good chance for you to voice your opinion on various things. And then we'll go to the internet here, to the Zoom meeting, and see what kind of comments we have there. And they've all submitted forms as well. And so with that, board members, do you have anything to say? Questions, comments, anything?
I'm really interested to hear what the public has to say.
Yeah. Okay, so with that.
Yes,
You look like
a question on the presentation first before I
Yes.
comment.
Yes. Yeah, but you do have to fill up.
We still in the card. I just wanted to say thank you. It's really nice to actually be here in a cozy environment to have the conversation. And it's a very nice presentation. Thank you and the team. I know that there's been a lot of energy and work and effort to not only do the work, but keep it all organized and share with the public. It's really been an honor to be a part of going to some of the ribbon cutting events and the walkthroughs and Foothill, waiting for the windows to come in and then actually see it. And actually, it was really amazing to see the students in the experience. impressive. And the $7 million of savings, like, that's just amazing. So, thank you.
One more thing I want to say about the, thank you, that's Kelly McCosh, for those of you who don't know, one of our board members. One of the things that I want to say is keep your comments to 3 minutes if you can. That's our typical standard. I'll try to please, sir.
I guess
State your
I'm-
name and.
Yeah, so my name's Bill Butler. Been a resident of the community for 17 years, 4 children, going to school. My wife is a 93 grad from Amador. I've been, one question, maintenance. I have two parts of my comments. The maintenance question. So 3% of the annual budget this year, and we had talked before about the state suspending that during the period of COVID, so you could, focus efforts elsewhere. That 3% is how much the budget for this year, and then the follow-up is on that question is how much does that actually address the need, like percentage-wise?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So actually, let me clarify. The state suspended the 3% rule after the Great Recession. And it was only just like, I believe, 2 fiscal cycles ago that they restored it back. So almost for a decade, we were not under that obligation. And one of, again, when you're in that kind of situation and you have to make decisions were made to preserve a lot of our classroom programs and those things. And so there is a price to pay for that, and that is some of the things that we're seeing today. So staff got reduced on that end. Projects were not, on a regular basis going out for painting and for repairs and so on and so forth. Dry rot sets in, other things, bad things happen. So that was, it was a long period of time. And so we're kind of working ourselves out of it. The other thing that the state did a little bit prior to that is that there was a program called deferred maintenance, right? And so what it required is the district would put in some dollars and the state would match it. And that will also help districts maintain. The state left that, state said, we're not going to do that anymore. Right. So 2 whammies there. The deferred maintenance program went, they gave districts this flexibility on their routine restricted and have only recently brought it back. The 3% for about our budget, which is around 180 to 185 million, is about $5.5 million. That mainly covers your regular day-to-day type of activities. It can catch a few painting projects, some asphalt projects, some carpeting and this, but you can't do a whole district at the same time. You have to meter it. So for example, we've been metering our painting projects at 3 or 4 a year and so on and so forth. And so it is not meant for a capital replacement, like a major replacement of a building, an additional building. It's not meant for even the large HVAC and other things that we're seeing. So those really need those capital dollars that we have to access in the first. I have more than 3 minutes.
Sorry, let's not do that. Go ahead.
And then I guess my public comment is, I had the honor to coach the freshman boys basketball team this year. And I volunteered in this community for really since I've been here. And I got to share a quick story that I was in the auxiliary gym, the small gym. Many people that live in Pleasant for
This Amador?
at Amador Valley here. And they call it the girls' gym, as it's been known for many years as well. And I was in early December in the midst of COVID, coaching 14 and 15-year-old boys. And that gym was probably 43, 44 degrees. I had a heavy coat on, no central ventilation, no heat. The doors were open because of COVID. And I'm sitting there looking at 14 and 15-year-old boys shivering with masks on. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. It was like being in a third world country. And we talk about we're Pleasant. And I will tell you, Ahmed knows this, and I'm mobilizing this community. We're going to do something about it. That auxiliary gym is 100 years old. The main gym is over 50 years old. Nothing works. I would urge everyone in this community to go in there, take a look around. Those places are classrooms, they're assembly places, and most important, they are the faces of this community. And while classrooms are very important, I would ask the majority of this community, how many times have you been in classroom 10B on Amador or any one of these campuses? But we all have been to the gyms in these central meeting locations. We have to do something about this. And the time is now, not 6 years from now. Thank you.
Other comments from the questions from the team? Going once.
I'm just gonna ask on that, how much, you mentioned 5 acres or so down, what's the acreage of the Neal property and of the district office?
Yeah, the Neal property, or the property off of Vineyard that's vacant is about 10 acres. And the district property is between 10 to 11 acres as well. The upper Bernal field. The upper Bernal field, I think is like something like 7 or 8 acres as well.
How long is that lease for?
I don't recall how long the upper Bernal.
It's in the 30s. So it's got some.
It's a 500.
Yeah.
I have to look into that. But yeah, not to digress. If you ask me a question about the theater, I have more answers.
Okay, Patrick, let's open it to people online.
Sure. So our first public comment comes from Sunil Ariana. Sure that you are still with us. Yes, I see you are.
Hi, thanks for admitting me. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Perfect. Wonderful presentation. Really helpful to see how the money was used. I think you guys have done an excellent job, so appreciate that. My question, as you can see on the card, relates to whether you've considered, given the size of the overall ask of 850 million, which, as you noted, is only going to grow, whether as a rationality analysis, it makes sense to actually demolish all the schools and rebuild them. And I know that sounds dramatic, but certainly I've seen that done in other school districts. And I think when you add up each of the individual projects, i.e. HVACs, roofs, et cetera, it might make sense to just take a step back and say, what would it cost to start over? And even if one doesn't do that, in terms of defining what the some of the future projects might be, it's helpful. So as an example, you showed the slide of the Menlo Park School, which looked amazing. And if you look at some of the buildings we've constructed, I appreciate you're working both with a budget and trying to keep the look consistent with what exists, but the schools look a little warehousey. And so just at the higher level, I'm just curious how some of the things are approached, as opposed to just getting in the weeds of this project, that project, that project, and thinking more holistically, where are we trying to go? And I can just, from a comment perspective, say, my kids are just going into middle school and elementary, but I feel like at the high school level, particularly when you have impressive campuses, it's certainly an attractive feature for anyone coming, looking to potentially move into the community, but also living here. You want your kids, as they get prepped for college, to be in state-of-the-art facilities, and it's something I certainly would support. So that's it, but thank you.
Thank you. Address the question. Was there a question in or just a comment in there?
We don't respond.
What?
Just comments.
Just comments. Okay. Next one.
Through the rest.
Yeah.
All right. So our next public comment comes from John Schultz. John, you should be able to speak as soon as you I see you on here twice, so let me know if you need me to. John, it looks like you're.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Fantastic. I'm on there twice, both the computer and the phone. So kind of, well, you got me. So yeah, I must say that I actually toured some of the schools. I looked at both high schools and some of the middle schools, and they are beautiful. Leidixon is beautiful. A lot of improvements at Foothill and Amador Valley High Schools. So we're definitely heading in the right direction. I live in the Donnelly community, and your presentation and the view of all these schools, just shows how there's a lack of fairness between the Donnelly and its community and the rest of the city. Donnelly hasn't even been painted. The Donnelly and Val Vista community hasn't received the same attention. To add insult to injury, we find out that you're gonna take the only open green space in our community and add housing, without any transparency. I didn't see any, thing leading up to that plan, as a bait and switch. I've spoken to many of the residents in the Val Vista neighborhood, and I can tell you they are appalled by those who support this housing measure to take away that green space and replace it with housing. You guys are, I'm sure, aware, there's a strong distrust between this community and the the Pleasanton School District. The members who support this housing measure, this is a major problem. We need to work on this and correct this distrust. We received these broken promises, and we lost the trust that we had of the Pleasanton Unified School District. Don't take our green space, fix up Donlin, and let's work on this together. Are you guys working on a plan to create a park in that green space and to regain our trust in this community? That's my questions.
Thank you, John.
All right, our next comment comes from Colleen Hickey. Colleen, if you take yourself off mute, you should be.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you go. Go ahead.
So I typed the questions into the chat because my children are in the background and you may not be able to hear me. Is it okay if I mute myself and somebody asks those questions on my behalf by reading them from there, or do I need to ask that out loud myself?
Either way, we all have kids too, so I understand.
Okay, well,
I can read.
It's really short. Hopefully my kids will let me finish. So really quick. I just have two questions. Has PUSD considered the mental, emotional, and physical health implications of the largest number of elementary school students in the district? If PUSD sells 5.5 acres of the Donlin Elementary students' field in order to fund PUSD projects elsewhere? And my second question is, if PUSD can mow Donlin Field multiple times in 1 week before a community event about saving it this past week, how can it possibly be a burden to PUSD? That's all I got.
Thank you, Colleen.
That concludes our public comment.
Okay, one more chance from the audience here. All right, I don't think we have anything else on the agenda. So once again, thank you, committee members, for joining us here. I really appreciate that. And thank you for everybody else coming out. And if you're further interested in this topic, some of you who are on the Facilities Master Planning Committee will certainly hear more tomorrow, but the board meeting will address it as well on Thursday. We'll talk about some of the same topics, especially the one about the potential moving of the district office and so forth. That. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw you the other day. Did you email